Improve your English listening comprehension skills. If you pay attention to all five and spend time every day, not long, 15, 20 minutes, there is no way you won't improve dramatically. If you get bored working one way,
work into something a little bit more like English, and help it be a little bit more interesting. But also, at the end of the day, if people don't have the attention for a 5,000-word essay, then they don't have the attention to play the kind of part that a serious citizen ought to play in thinking about these questions. We can't simply change that, but for those who do, we can offer them more than they might get in a traditional policy white paper that requires a lot of expertise, more than they'd get in a kind of general reader magazine article that is just trying to keep them turning the pages.
لما تبقى عميل بريميوم في بنك اسكندرية هتتنقل نقلة تانية خالص.
مساء الخير.
ايه ده؟
هل
in Japanese, November 2006 in English, it is revealed that Tenchi himself is the avatar of a greater being, known simply as Kami Tenchi, the god of heaven and earth. By transcending the dialectic, Tenchi recognizes himself as both God and man, and accepts the connection to the divine that his Juraian ancestry gives him. In this way, the creators of the anime have somehow tapped into and, dare I say, surpassed the biblical archetype of.
They use what's called a planchette in English, or fuji in Chinese. They actually write in sand messages from the gods. Very interesting how they do that. Maybe we'll give them a link to that. The guy had been studying to do this, and it was sort of taking over in his daily life, and it had gotten out of control.
Our username Coach Atlas says that they'd love to hear about your relationship with Bill Hamilton. How did you meet? What was your Dharma discussion like? What was Bill like? Did his brand of Dharma affect you at all?
Oh yeah, that's some good oral history. Bill Hamilton is one of the
doing. It's a fantastic opportunity to practice English and practice speaking without having someone else to speak with. It's a really great way of practicing the present continuous as well. I am boiling the water. I am adding the rice. Maybe go a bit more advanced and say, oh, I'm just adding a pinch of this because it adds an element of flavour. Honestly, go all out. You could even record yourself. Maybe that's too far for some people. But this is just about using every opportunity you have to speak English. Tip number 9 is remember to prioritise fluency over accuracy. Take a book that you have already. No, but when I was teaching Spaniards English, they never knew how to pronounce it because it's quite a complicated spelling. It's this one. How do we say it? It's squirrel, squirrel. And that earl, people with Chinese as a mother tongue, that might be a really difficult one because and ul often get confused. So squirrel, squirrel. 2 syllables there. The next one, number 7. This one. We've got that sound again. When talking about these brands, if you'd like to take your English a step further, then I really recommend Audible. When it comes to improving your pronunciation, sometimes reading just isn't enough, but listening to audiobooks really shows you how each word is pronounced. So there's a link in the description box. You can click on it and you can sign up for a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook. And I've got some recommendations in there for audiobooks read with a British English accent and also an American accent as well. So you can choose whichever is more relevant for you. That being said, let's get started with the video. Now, the first one is you can learn English, German, French and Spanish, but on this occasion, they're only running the marathon for English and German. Normally, you have to sign up on a subscription basis, meaning that what you pay for is what you get. But every now and again, I think they lasted one at the beginning of the year, which I helped promote as well, which went really well. They do a language marathon. Now, you know that I don't promote cramming and learning languages really, really quickly. The best way you can possibly learn a language is by doing it little and often. And one English class, so many fantastic English YouTubers or English TV programs. The world is your oyster. Go for it. It can really, really transform your productivity, as it did with mine. Now, number 5 is something that can improve your grammar, your vocabulary, your pronunciation, your speaking, your listening, your writing, your reading. It can genuinely improve everything. And this is identifying where you are lacking. And this is something that you will have heard me mention before in videos, but I'm reiterating it and repeating it because I think it's so important. Everyone, and welcome back to English with Lucy. Today I have another pronunciation video for you. I'm going to be going through all of the English place names that are really hard to pronounce, and I'm going to be letting you in on some secrets. Yes, I'm going to be giving you some rules, and if you take note and if you learn them, hopefully pronouncing English place names should be a lot easier. And to make it a little bit more fun and to allow you guys to laugh at yourselves, I've made it a quiz. So you can comment below with your score. I'm basically going to give you a little bit of time to guess the pronunciation before.
بنك التعمير والإسكان بيقدم خدمات بنكية ملهاش آخر.
امال ليه سموه بنك التعمير والإسكان بس؟
طب ما انا فاتح حساب في التعمير والاسكان ورابط شهادتين.
ايه يعني هيسموه بنك التحويش والشهادات؟
مش هتصير مال وفي حاجه.
ما انا مزنوق هنا ومخلص كل حاجه على الموبايل. يسموه بنك التاتش والاب.
دي كور العياده.
واو.
طب الكريدت كارد بنك التعمير والاسكان يسموه بنك التقسيط والبطاقات؟
نويت.
المصنع ده كله بتمويل التعمير والاسكان.
حلو بالتمويل والمشروعات.
ما انا فاتحه حساب مصرية، ايه يسموه بنك انتي والبنات؟
هندسه في الصحراء والفرع قدام اهو. حلو، كانوا يسموه بنك في كل مكان.
هو اسمه التعمير والإسكان.
ايوه هو التعمير والاسكان.
ما تستفزلكش بقى.
خلصت العربيه من بنك التعمير والاسكان. يسموه ايه بقى؟ بنك القروض والعربيات؟
العربية حلوة قوي ما شاء الله.
التعمير والإسكان تاريخ طويل، سموه بنك التاريخ والأملاك.
بنك التوفير والكاشات.
بنك كل الخدمات.
تخيلي بقى لو كل حاجة البنك بيعملها موجودة في الاسم.
ده كده لازم يافطة كبيرة قوي.
كده الاسم زي ما هو، والخدمات ملهاش آخر. بنك التعمير والإسكان اسم متعود عليه بخدمات مش متعود عليها. كل يوم بنجدد ونطور ونقدم لك حلول بنكية جديدة أسهل وأسرع من أي وقت. بنك التعمير والإسكان، خدمات بنكية ملهاش آخر.
One of my favorite ways to cut down on study time is to use AI tools. This is where Grammarly can help. Just open up Grammarly and ask it to help you to brainstorm topics. Then tell Grammarly what your essay is about, and almost instantly it'll give you a handful of topic ideas. Once you have your topic, Grammarly can also help you draft a research plan and even give you an outline. Now once you have the outline, you start writing your essay, and along the way, Grammarly ensures that your writing is clear and concise. It'll check for common grammar mistakes like passive voice, subject-verb disagreement, and misplaced modifiers. But it'll also analyze your piece as a whole and provide suggestions for cohesion, flow, and tone. In fact, with Grammarly Pro, you can indicate the exact tone you'd like to go for, whether it's personable, confident, empathetic, engaging, witty, or direct. Oh, and once you're done writing, you can also use Grammarly's plagiarism detector to ensure that you can submit your essays with confidence. Grammarly is a must-have for all students.
For this definition, we would say degree in the UK or major in American English. We do not use career for this definition. So a correct sentence with career is, I started my career making teas and coffees, and now I'm the head of operations. That's correct. An incorrect example would be, my career was very challenging and I was relieved to graduate. We should say my degree or my major was very challenging and I was relieved to graduate. Number 2, the second word that's and fast native English speakers. In this lesson, I've got 3 listening activities for you to do, so please have a pen and paper ready. Let's start with exercise number 1. This exercise is all about showing you the importance of vocabulary. Many listening exams will have a gap fill exercise where you're given a passage of text and you have to listen to an audio and fill in the gaps. The same goes for natural, fast English conversation. You may understand the majority of the words, but you may miss some key words that are essential to understand.
And the same goes for your English. Practice makes perfect. The last proverb is actually my personal favourite, and it's about determination. It is, where there's a will, there's a way. It means that if you want to do something enough, then you will find a way of doing it. Nothing is impossible. There is always a way. I used to say this one to myself a lot because when I started the English with Lucy YouTube channel, I had no idea how to work a camera. A funny story is that my dad lent me a small amount of money to buy a camera and a tripod. It's not good English, but it is colloquial conversational English, and you will hear it and you probably will want to learn to use it, because saying I want to and I'm going to all the time can be pretty tiresome. Quickly, before we get started, I just want to remind you that if you really want to take your English up to the next level, you're going to need to talk and practice with native speakers, and there is a fabulous platform that will help you do this, and it's called italki. Now, italki is a website.
In American English, they say a tempest in a teapot. A tempest in a teapot. That sounds much more posh. Teacup, teapot, much more tea. This means great outrage or excitement over a trivial matter. For example, I don't think the apocalypse is coming. I think it's a big old storm in a teacup. Number 13. In British English, we say a drop in the ocean, a drop in the ocean. And in American English, they say a drop in the bucket, a drop in the bucket. It means a very small or insignificant amount compared to the amount.
Alright guys, those were your 10 beautiful English words. I would love to hear the words that you find beautiful, so please put them in the comments below. If you like the video, don't forget to share it and connect with me on all of my social media.
Flattered that English people were trying to learn their language, because obviously they had come to England to learn our language, so it was quite a nice exchange. Look around you, see if there's an Irish pub or some sort of British restaurant, or if you're learning French, a French restaurant, etc., and you can make a really fun evening of it. Obviously, it's best to have a partner in crime that's also learning that language, but you can always ask your dinner partner, do you mind if we do this in a foreign language? I'd just really like the opportunity to practice. Number 5, great for daily practice, is set all of your electronic devices, so I'm talking your TV, your phone. We got some really good advice. He says, speak English with your close friends. Yeah, you can speak English with people you trust. He also says to imagine yourself in different daily situations in which you have to speak English. Again, it's that talking to yourself technique that I mentioned before. Paco says the more he speaks with natives, the more confident he feels. And yes, it's the immersion again. Roy says get a girlfriend who's a native speaker. Yes, if you can manage that, that's fantastic, but make sure you're with her for the right reasons. Hector says speak slowly at first and then build up. Or you can say, if you think sorry for my English is fine. I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Now, number 4, you guys always knew I was going to mention this one. It is practice. But I want to say practice, but don't learn. You can tell when somebody has practiced a presentation or rehearsed a presentation, and you can also tell when they've learnt a presentation. The difference being that a practiced presentation is organic, it's genuine, it flows, and it's trustworthy. You can trust what that person is in the US and in other English-speaking countries as well. So they're pretty universal, but they're seriously, seriously useful. So let's get started with the lesson. Quickly, before we get started, nah, kidding, not today. Let's get started with the lesson. Number one, my first expression using have is to have a laugh. To have a laugh. Now, to have a laugh means to kid around or to be joking, or even to have a joke can be said as well. So if I say to you, are you having a laugh? I'm essentially saying, are you joking?
I'm on my English with Lucy Facebook page. Loads of you join in every week and it's really good fun, and I like seeing the same names coming back every week. So if you want to become a regular, join in now. Don't forget to connect with me on all of my social media, and I will see you for another lesson very, very soon. Mwah!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to English with Lucy. In this vocabulary lesson, I'm going to give you 20 commonly used business English nouns, and then loads of collocations that can relate to them. By the end of the lesson, you'll have learnt over 150 business vocabulary collocations. I will give you the definition if the collocation changes the meaning of the noun, or if I think the combination is particularly complicated. Let's get started with the lesson. Hello everyone, and welcome back to English with Lucy. Today, after all of your requests, I'm doing a grammar video, and I wanted to talk to you about something that even I, an English teacher, struggle with sometimes. It's something I have to use every single day. It is punctuation, and I have always really struggled with apostrophes and when not to use them. Apostrophes follow loads of rules, and I see them misused all of the time. I know that sometimes I might misuse them as well.
Hi guys, welcome back to English with Lucy. Just a little tiny baby video for you today. I want to talk to you about 3 little tiny phrases that all mean roughly the same thing that you really should know if you're thinking about taking a Cambridge exam anytime soon, because I've seen them come up time and time again, and normally my students are pretty clueless or have no idea about what they mean. So the 3 phrases are to be keen on, to be fond of, and to be a fan of.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to English with Lucy. So today, after the success of my 100-word pronunciation video, I thought I would bring you something even bigger. So today, I'm going to talk you through 100 phrases that you can use in everyday English conversation. As always, we will be focusing on the British English pronunciation, but these are phrases that can be used anywhere. If you speak a different dialect of English, I encourage you to write in the comments below what you would say differently. It's really interesting and helpful.
عبور لاند مش بس الطعم الأصلي، دي اختيار الشعب المصري.
Personality and character in English, and I'm going to help you with your pronunciation. Before we get started, I'd just like to mention the sponsor of today's video. It is italki. If you haven't heard of italki before, it's a huge online database of both native and non-native speakers who give one-to-one lessons 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can learn English and over 100 other languages from anywhere in the world as long as you have a stable internet connection. It's a really affordable way of learning a language, much cheaper than offline academies and in-person. By country, I mean English spoken in New Zealand is very different to English spoken in America, for example. So you need to be able to recognise more or less everything and diversify your English. Focusing on that word variety again, I want to talk to you about resources. For my next point, I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to answer it to yourself honestly. How much time do you actually dedicate to practicing and improving your listening skills? Answer it honestly. Most of the students that I ask say around 1 to 2 hours, and even then they might be things that we have in English. This is a huge problem for British people, is ending a conversation, because normally the other person wants to continue it and it's very hard to convey that you want to leave. Well, I have 3 lovely phrases to help you with leaving and ending a conversation in a polite way. Number 42, a great one to say is, well, it was lovely chatting to you. Well, it was nice chatting to you. Normally started with, well, it was lovely to talk to you. Or 43, a word we always use is right, and then followed. I remember living in Spain, I could see English people coming over to Spain and speaking slowly, but still using words like wanna and gonna and don'tcha, like connecting all these words together and not understanding why people weren't getting what they were saying. They had no idea. They were trying to be clear. So people just need that reminder. And you have every right to ask someone that. So dominate the conversation. Another part of this tip is you ask the questions. You can make sure that the conversation stays on track. It stays on the
in that for English, you know, the same sentence in a couple of different ways with different tones of voice, and it means something completely different. Completely changes it, yeah, and that can really be confusing for students. Well, it can be confusing when you're trying to speak and get your message across, but when you're listening, you know, you miss so much information if you don't understand that. So it's really important. Another thing for me is the set phrases, like the expressions. But this is the same for learning any language. I remember when I was learning Spanish, hearing really weird phrases, and you either know them or you don't. Yeah. You can't just guess. Yeah.
Really struggle with listening in English. I always, when they do their exams, I'm sure you've seen this as well, speaking will be quite high, reading and writing will be really high, but listening is always the bit that they struggle on. And it's because you can't read the lips, you can't read the body language. And so, and then also the voice on the telephone gets a bit distorted. So how can my students feel more confident on the telephone? Because it's an essential part of life.
The telephone calls are hard, aren't they? That whole thing that we can't see the other person.
You can't see their reaction, so you don't know whether they like. I will be speaking clear English, but please remember to switch on the subtitles if you're struggling to follow. You can also reduce the speed of the video to slow me down. Additionally, I have placed a glossary of key vocabulary used in each video in the description box. Right, let's get started with the first lesson in the course. In this lesson, I'm going to be talking to you about how you can write a perfect CV, also called a resume in American English. It's not just English. You can speak to qualified native teachers. Also, there's the option to have non-native and non-qualified, and they will do one-on-one video lessons with you. It's a buy one, get one free on lessons. So when you sign up and spend $10 and buy 100 italki credits, they will credit your account with a further 100 italki credits, meaning you basically get a lesson for free. It's an excellent offer, so make sure you check out that by clicking on the link below. Right, let's get started with the lesson. Just a quick warning, a couple of the words that I'm going to talk about could offend some people, or maybe you don't want. Right, who's been watching English with Lucy since the very beginning? When I started my channel, I used to make videos with little quizzes at the end, and I thought it would be really nice to do one today. So I've set up a quiz. There are 10 questions. You can put your answers in the comments if you like. 1. Could you repeat that? What you said. Could you repeat that? What you said. Number 2. He got in Soho, London. He got business English. I've tried Lingoda myself and I was blown away by the experience. All of the teachers are qualified native speakers. You can take classes at your convenience, anytime, anywhere, as long as you have a stable internet connection. Group sizes are really small, with an average of just 3 students per class. You study a structured curriculum and all of your learning materials are provided. This sprint starts on the 7th of January 2020 and lasts until the 5th of April 2020. You have to participate in phrases in the English language. No offence. Is there a more offensive phrase than no offence? When somebody says no offence, but you know they're going to follow that with something offensive. It's just the way people are. So I have 11 alternatives for you that you can use to give criticism politely. So this video is perfect for improving your vocabulary, but if you want to improve your listening skills and your pronunciation skills even further, then I highly recommend the special method. Explain. Take a book that you have already read in English or a book that you would like to read in English. I've got lots of recommendations down in the description box. And read this book whilst listening to the audiobook version. Reading alone will not help your pronunciation because English isn't a strictly phonetic language. How a word is spelt or written might not give you any indication as to how it's pronounced. If you listen to a word as you read it, your brain will start to make connections, and the next time you read that word, you'll know how it's pronounced, and the next time you hear that word, you'll know how it's spelt, how it's written.
لمة الماتش دي أكيد فيها لب. ليبتون يظبط أي لمة.
This works with English, it works with any other subject. Work to the other person's concentration time. Have a little whiteboard, do a little session, time's up, have a break, swap. Both of you benefit from it because you're learning, because you're being taught, and you also learn because you are teaching. By thinking as both a student and a teacher, you are looking at information from both perspectives, so it can be amazing for your brain. When I look at grammar now, I think, how can I make this easier for my students to understand? And subconsciously, I am also making of English with Lucy. Not that many people. I had very few. It took me a couple of months to get to 1,000 subscribers. But my second ever video was a video called How to Learn and Remember Vocabulary. The video is a little bit disorganized. It was my second video ever. I was 21 years old and I was eager to get onto YouTube and share this knowledge that I had. But the video's done really, really well. But looking back at the video, there are some updates that I would like to add on. Because fruit, vegetable or nut in English. I'm going to start off with more beginner vocabulary and move up towards advanced. Before we get started, I would just like to thank the sponsor of today's video. It is Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language school where you can learn English, Spanish, French, German and business English 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from anywhere in the world as long as you have a stable internet connection. You learn with native, qualified teachers, and when you complete enough courses, you'll get a CEFR certificate.
Quickly, write it down in English, and then I forget about it. And I keep on doing that throughout the day. So you're constantly on the lookout. Do I know that in Spanish? Yes, I do. Left it. Do I know that in Spanish? No, I don't. Write it down. You might end up with 5 words at the end of the day. You might end up with 20 words at the end of the day. It depends on your level and also where you are. By doing this, you are training your brain to become accustomed to thinking about things in that second language, and it will help you towards fluency. Then you're also creating a list on your phone to write in English to you. We speak fairy language, and the letter was signed from Nina, which was a fairy that lived in my garden. And communication between Nina and I continued for 2 years. Yes, I would write a letter to Nina the fairy almost every night. Sometimes I went a while without writing, and then I apologised, and she would always reply. Sometimes my letters would get a bit wet, and she would say that she had to put some magic on it and clarify my writing. I wasn't really that bothered if it improve your English vocabulary, and it's going to help you sound more like a native. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank the sponsor of today's video. It is Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language academy. They've got loads of real qualified native teachers that will teach you in both group and private online lessons. They have French, Spanish, German and English. I've tried it out for myself and I really do think it is excellent and incredibly affordable. You sign up on a monthly basis, so you get your subscription package, which tells you how many group classes you have. You can learn English and over 130 other languages from anywhere in the world, anytime, as long as you have a stable internet connection. It's an incredibly affordable way of learning a language, much cheaper than an offline tutor or a language academy. So many people message me and ask me how they can meet and talk to native speakers because they want to practice. italki is a really good option because yes, they have the qualified teachers, but they also have community teachers who will practice conversation with you. They've given me an offer to pass on to you. You will receive... It was very, very English. I'm back now with another really exciting advanced pronunciation video. This video is going to show you how you can speak more quickly, and it's also going to help you sound more like a native speaker. So it's a really, really important one. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Lingoda. This video is going to help you with your speaking and your listening, but if you want to take it a step further, why not try Lingoda? I've done a full review video, which you can look at by clicking up here. But basically, it's an online language. Next time you read something, if you're reading to practice your English, let me know which person you choose in the comments, because I think it'll be quite funny to see who everyone chooses. Now, the next tip is for people who just really aren't satisfied with their reading comprehension. If you feel like you are underperforming in exams or you're not getting the most out of reading for pleasure, this tip's for you. I want you to step back from your reading and evaluate what's going wrong. Why? Why are you dissatisfied? In order to find a cure, you need to find... In American English, they are also really inclined to say ew, ew, sometimes followed by gross. And because we have a lot of American movies and TV shows in the UK, now our children are starting to say ew, gross and gross. In fact, I think I remember saying it as a child, and my mum was saying, don't say that, say yuck, you're British. When we in the UK see something disgusting, we're likely to say, if we don't make the noise, we could say, how disgusting. Words in the English language, it's a weak word, avoid using it. Another word that I've discussed extensively before on my channel is very. Very is an intensifier, and you should use a powerful adjective instead. Fairly, really and quite should also be avoided in the same way as very. Another word that many career advisors will tell you to avoid is just. It means only or simply. For example, I just wanted to check if you've received my application. It implies that it shouldn't be prioritized. Instead, most common irregular verbs in English. And I will do another video on the next 25, so 26 to 50, very, very soon. But I think it's better for you guys to do it in short bursts. You're not going to remember suddenly 150 words, so best to stick with 25 right now. That's 3 lots of 25. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Just a reminder, if you liked this pronunciation class, then you will love my free live pronunciation lesson. It's every Sunday at 4:30 London time on my Facebook page, English with Lucy. That's shy when you're already fluent in English, and you can make them feel better and tell them about your ridiculous experiences. Number 6. Meet and talk to as many different people as possible. In your life, you are going to meet so many people that you will never ever meet again. So if you do embarrass yourself in front of them, if the worst does happen, it doesn't matter. You might think about it again, they might think about it again, but if you don't ever see them again, it doesn't matter. Take the opportunity to speak with strangers, to go out and meet people, to talk to as many different people. To improve your English listening skills, you can get a free audiobook on Audible. The link is in the description box. Connect with me on all of my social media, my Instagram and my Facebook, where I hold a weekly live pronunciation lesson every Sunday at 4:30. Goodbye for now. I will see you soon for another lesson. Mwah! So there you have it, your definitive guide on how to read dates in English. I hope that was useful for you. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to connect with me on all of my social media. You've got my Instagram and my Facebook, where I host a free live pronunciation lesson every Sunday at 4:30 GMT. Don't forget to give this video a like, and if this is your first time visiting, make sure you subscribe. I will see you soon for another lesson. Mwah! Take a book that you have already read in English, or a book that you would like to read in English. I've got lots of recommendations for books and audiobooks down below in the description box. And as you read that book, listen to the audiobook version at the same time. Reading alone will not help with your pronunciation, or your listening for that matter. English is not a strictly phonetic language. The way a word is spelt or written in English might not give you any indication as to how that word is pronounced. That's why pronunciation in English is so hard for my students. But if you listen to a word, which meant in Old English a ball of thread. This is because a ball of thread could be used to guide somebody out of a maze or a labyrinth, so that was a clue. So that is where clue comes from. The next one, jargon. That is a good word, isn't it? I love saying jargon. And jargon comes from the old French word jargon. I hope I've said that correctly. Meaning twittering like birds. So basically, when someone's using a lot of jargon, they're twittering like birds, it's not really understandable, and they're saying a load of rubbish. Okay, the next. Today we're going to be discussing telephone English. If you work in an office or want to work in an office, chances are you'll have to answer the telephone, or at the very least take a telephone interview. In this lesson, I'm going to give you lots of vocabulary and set phrases that you can use on the telephone. I'll give you some tips on making yourself understood on the telephone, and I'll give you some telephone interview tips. Right, let's get started with the lesson. On YouTube for more free English lessons. Okay, so what makes the verb to take so special? Well, the answer is it's what we call a light verb. It's also known as a dilexical verb as well. And other verbs in the light verb group are have, give, make, do and go. You might remember that I've already done a video on make and do. And like verbs are verbs that, when used on their own, they have very little meaning, but when partnered with another noun, they have much more meaning. And there's specific nouns that go with specific like verbs. So today I'm going to talk you through all of the nouns and situations. Hello and welcome to English with Lucy. It's been a long time since I last made a video using my whiteboard, so today is going to be a really useful lesson. It's going to be all about the verb to get. Oh, very important news, I now have an Instagram along with my Facebook and obviously my YouTube channel, which is right here. And for my Chinese followers, I've created a Weibo account as well, and you can communicate with me on there. Now, I warn you, I don't speak Chinese, so I'm finding it quite difficult, but I don't want you guys to feel like I don't appreciate you, because the way a word is spelt in English or written in English doesn't really give you much indication as to how it's pronounced in English. But if you listen to a word as you read it, your brain will start making connections, and the next time you see that word, you'll know exactly how it's said, how it's meant to be said, how it's meant to sound, and the next time you hear that word, you'll know exactly how it's spelt and written as well. It is such an effective method, and the best part is you can get one free audiobook. That's a 30-day free trial that we use in British English and in American English. This lesson is going to be really good for building your vocabulary. It will help with your reading, it will help with your writing, it will also help with your speaking and your listening, because you'll be able to understand what natives mean when they say these idioms. I know loads of you are desperately looking for ways to improve your speaking, pronunciation and listening, and there's one thing that I'd like to mention. I know a lot of you are using it already, but I really recommend Audible. Audible is Amazon's provider of audiobooks. My advice to you is search for a book read in a British accent. I know that a lot of you are learning English right now with the intention of one day becoming fluent, so it'll be really nice to keep a record of these things and work towards achieving the next one. Before we get started, I would just like to thank the sponsor of today's video. It is Skillshare, and if you haven't heard of them before, they're an online learning community with thousands of classes of all different topics. You can learn about marketing, languages, cooking, craft skills. Honestly, there are lessons for absolutely everyone. There are loads of free classes, but you can also sign up to a premium membership, which for great audiobooks to help you improve your English. Right, let's get started with the video. Fact number 1, tea is by far the most popular drink drunk by Brits. Maybe you knew this, but apparently we drink 165 million cups of tea every single day. Bananas. I've drunk no tea today. It's not my favourite. I don't hate it. I'll have it if I'm offered, but yeah. Number 2, on our main TV channels, that's channel 1 and 2 and quite a few others, they're run by the BBC and we don't have any adverts. This is because we pay a licence. You can learn English and over 130 other languages from anywhere in the world, any time of day, any day of the week, as long as you have a stable internet connection. It's an incredibly affordable way of learning a language, much cheaper than an offline tutor or a language academy. So many students write to me and ask, how can I meet and talk with native speakers? Well, italki is a really good option because not only do they have qualified teachers, they also have community teachers who will practice conversation with you. They've given me a special offer to get $10 worth. Describe the weather in English. We're going to start off quite basic and move up to more advanced vocabulary. I'm going to guide you through seasonal weather, hot weather, cold weather, wet weather, windy weather, and I'm going to give you verbs, nouns, adjectives, and idiomatic expressions. Idioms. We're also going to do a little bit of basic grammar at the beginning, but very easy, don't worry. Before we get started, I would just like to make a recommendation. This video is going to improve your vocabulary and your speaking skills. Working as a private English teacher,
A lot of people wanted conversation lessons, and they would come in and say, I just want to talk, which is great. But I had a small handful of students that really knew how to improve their conversation skills, and I actually learnt from them. I had a couple of students come in and say, I want conversation lessons, but I want to practice my stories. And this was great. They would come in with a handful of stories that they would tell on a daily basis, maybe where you're from, why you're living in London, something funny that happened to you on your holiday, something that they like to.
If you want to speak better English, you should carry on watching. Carry on means to continue. Then we have come on. Come on, if you don't hurry, we'll miss the train. In this case, come on means hurry. The next one is find out. I need to find out when the train leaves. I need to deceive. Then we have get on or get along. These mean the same. I get on very well with my flatmates.
For example, subscribe to English with Lucy. That's a really good CTA. In this part of the lesson, I'm going to talk to you about 10 business idioms. Place or read in emails. Let's get started.